picture the scenario, right?
Right.
It's the middle of the night. You're shuffling through your own house in the dark.
Oh, yeah, just try not to wake anyone up.
Exactly. Maybe you're just trying to get a glass of water and suddenly you trip hard over something completely
The
unseen.
classic midnight stumble.
Whoa, yes. You're flailing, you hit the ground, and you find yourself just flat on the floor in the dark. Or, I mean, consider a totally different moment. It's the middle of the afternoon, and you catch your baby happily chewing on some mystery object they found under the dining table.
Oh, no.
Mm.
Something that's probably been there for, what, a few days?
Try a week. At least a week.
That is horrifying.
Right. But then there's the one that usually gets the heart racing the absolute fastest. The doorbell rings unexpectedly.
Oh, that is the worst.
You do not walk to the door to see who it is. Instead, you just freeze. You actually duck down, you're holding your breath, basically hiding from whoever is on your own front porch.
Just praying they go away.
Literally praying. Because the thought of opening that door and letting another human being see the absolute state of your living space, it's completely paralyzing.
Yeah, that visceral kind of panic is actually a fascinating physiological response to our own environment.
Yeah.
It goes far, far beyond simply feeling embarrassed about a messy room.
It's deeper than just, oh, I haven't dusted.
Exactly. When we examine the scenarios you just described,
Yeah.
the home, which culturally we're taught to view as this safe sanctuary, has completely transformed. It's become a source of physical danger, like with a tripping hazard, and deep, deep psychological dread.
Like a trap.
Basically, yes, the person ducking under the window. They're experiencing an acute stress response. Their system is literally flooding with cortisol, and it's all triggered by the everyday objects in their own living room.
And that psychological weight, that specific kind of dread, is exactly where we are starting our exploration today. We're doing a deep dive into a very specific, almost legendary piece of source material that tackles this exact paralysis.
It's a really unique text.
It is. It's a document titled 411 Commandments and First Baby Steps. And it was written by Marla Cilley. Now, if you've been on the internet over the past couple of decades, you might know Marla Cilley simply as the FlyLady.
Right, the FlyLady. She has millions of followers.
Millions. And on its surface, what she wrote here just looks like a standard, maybe slightly intense guide to getting your house clean. She even openly credits her foundational inspiration to Pam Young and Peggy Jones, who wrote an earlier book called Sidetracked Home Executives.
Which is a great title, by the way.
It really is. But our mission today is to look past that superficial layer of just, housekeeping.
Yeah.
We are not bringing this to you today to give you cleaning tips.
No, absolutely not. Because anyone looking for a simple chore chart will find this text entirely perplexing.
Totally baffling.
When you analyze it through a psychological lens, the author has constructed this highly structured, step-by-step behavioral intervention.
Yeah, intervention is the right word.
It operates much more like cognitive behavioral therapy that's just been heavily disguised as domestic advice.
Okay, let's unpack this, because what we are really exploring today is how the FlyLady system deploys these incredibly counterintuitive psychological triggers. And the goal is to completely dismantle massive, crushing feelings of guilt and failure.
Which is a huge undertaking.
It's massive. We're talking about using actions like shining a kitchen sink with actual car wax or forcing yourself to put on lace-up sneakers inside your own house to essentially hack your own brain.
And what's really fascinating here is the mechanics of that hack. The text outlines a system designed for people experiencing severe domestic disorganization.
Severe being the key word.
Right. But the disorganization is merely the symptom. The actual disease the author is treating is the severe emotional burnout and the total collapse of self-esteem that accompanies all that visual chaos.
Because you can't just tell someone who is that paralyzed to go clean their room.
You really can't. The intervention has to bypass the overwhelmed executive function of the brain entirely.
Well, before we get into those specific interventions, the car wax, the shoes, the weirdly specific daily routines we have, to establish the sheer scale of the problem the author is trying to solve here.
The baseline, yeah.
Right, because the author doesn't just call this being messy. She doesn't call it having a bad week. She has a very specific term for this state of living, and she calls it CAAS, all caps.
And CAAS operates as an acronym in her framework. It stands for Can't Have Anyone Over Syndrome.
Can't have anyone over syndrome. I mean, it perfectly encapsulates that porch hiding scenario we talked about.
It really does. It's about the social isolation that comes directly from the shame of the environment.
Yeah.
The phrasing is particularly brilliant because it shifts the focus completely away from the physical objects.
Yeah.
It puts it onto the social and emotional deficit.
Right. The problem isn't the stuff.
Exactly. The problem isn't that there are magazines on the floor. The problem is that the individual has become severed from their community due to deep shame.
Yeah.
And the way she diagnoses this syndrome in the text is striking.
It's honestly a little hard to read.
It is. She provides an 11-point diagnostic checklist right at the beginning to help the reader determine if they are the target audience for this intervention.
And they aren't normal cleaning questions.
No. Noticeably, she doesn't ask quantitative questions.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't ask, are there dishes in your sink?
Mm.
Or do you have 3 piles of laundry?
Right.
The indicators are heavily, heavily emotionally charged. They are barometers of a life that feels completely out of control.
I actually want to read some of these specific diagnostic questions to you, to our listener, because they really set the tone of the entire material.
Go for it.
Okay, so she asks, your husband is getting ready to walk out the door because he can't live like this anymore. Or, listen to this one, or even worse, social services is knocking at your door.
That is intense.
It gets heavier. She asks if you are wasting money on a housekeeping service you can't really afford because you don't know what you would do without them. She asks, are your windows so dirty that you can't tell if it is cloudy or sunny outside? And perhaps the most jarring one on the whole list, you yell at your babies.
See, if we connect this to the bigger picture of behavioral analysis, the author is explicitly linking the state of the physical environment, those dirty windows, the clutter, directly to profound emotional distress and negative behavioral changes.
Like yelling at the kids.
Precisely. Yelling at your babies is a manifestation of emotional dysregulation. Being, as another point on the checklist says, always in a bad mood, and you don't know why, that speaks to a chronic, low-grade depression caused by environmental factors.
Right, all connected.
The author states outright in the text that her program is, quote, not about cleaning. The messy house is framed entirely as the physical manifestation of a deeper internal crisis.
You know, it reminds me of this concept in software development called technical debt.
Oh, I like that comparison. How so?
Well, when programmers take a shortcut to fix a problem really quickly, it works for a minute, right? But it leaves behind this messy, inefficient code.
It's a Band-Aid.
Exactly. And over time, as they take more and more shortcuts, that messy code piles up. Eventually, the whole system becomes completely paralyzed. The engineers can't add any new features because the foundational code is an absolute disaster.
It crashes.
Yeah, it crashes. And that seems to map perfectly onto this concept of CAOS. It is emotional and domestic technical debt. You let things slide, maybe out of pure exhaustion, taking a shortcut here and there, and now the system is so overwhelmed it's crashing, you're tripping in the night, you're yelling at the kids.
The technical debt framework applies beautifully here, because when a software system is paralyzed by technical debt, the solution is never to just slap a new coat of paint on the user interface.
Well, right. That won't fix the bugs.
The engineers have to go deep into the code and restructure it line by line, addressing the foundational rot, which is exactly what the author's baby steps are designed to do. However, I think we should critically examine the severity of that diagnostic checklist before we move on.
I am so glad you brought that up because I struggle with the extremity of those questions. I really do.
They are extreme.
Equating having dirty windows with the fear of social services knocking at your door. That feels like a massive leap to me. I mean, a lot of highly functioning great parents have dirty windows.
Sure, it's a common chore to skip.
Setting up standard household messiness as the precursor to catastrophic family collapse feels a bit like fear-mongering to me, or at the very least, catastrophizing. Doesn't validating that kind of extreme anxiety actually make a perfectionist feel worse?
Well, that assumes the reader is a standard perfectionist dealing with a standard mess. We have to consider the very specific psychological profile of the audience she is targeting here.
Okay, fair point.
This text is specifically formulated to reach people who have truly hit rock bottom in their domestic lives. For an individual in a state of clinical-level overwhelm, a dirty window does not register as a simple chore postponed.
What does it register as?
It registers as a profound moral failing. It's a piece of evidence proving their inherent inadequacy. By including those extreme examples, social services, a spouse walking out, she's doing two distinct things.
What's the first?
First, she is meeting them exactly where their anxiety lives. The catastrophizing is already happening in their minds. By putting it in print, She acknowledges the reality of their terror.
Ah, I see. She's saying the quiet part out loud.
Exactly. And second, she establishes immediate, profound empathy.
By showing she understands the absolute darkest fears they have about their own lives.
She neutralizes the reader's deep shame by proving she has inhabited that exact same space of terror. She explicitly notes in the introduction that she hit a bottom where she looked, quote, like a truck had just run over me.
She admits that.
Yes, she admits to pretending she wasn't home to avoid visitors. She isn't standing on a mountain of cleanliness shouting down at them. She is sitting in the trench with them, saying, I see the absolute worst-case scenario playing in your mind, and I am not judging it because I lived it.
Wow. So she completely removes the pedestal. She is not some naturally tidy guru wagging a finger at you.
Not at all.
Okay, so she establishes the stakes. The house is in chaos. The resident feels terrible about themselves. The technical debt is suffocating. This leads us to the ultimate goal she presents, which, staying true to her premise, is not actually a spotless house.
No, it's not.
The goal is the other major acronym in her system, which is FLY. FLY. Finally loving yourself.
Finally loving yourself is the pivotal cognitive shift of the entire system. She is telling the reader that you do not clean your house because you hate the mess or because you fear judgment from your neighbors.
Right?
You clean it as a tangible act of self-love. The physical clutter is just the outward manifestation of the internal feelings of guilt and failure that she explicitly says the reader has been nurturing.
Nurturing the guilt, that's a heavy phrase.
It is. And to clear the clutter is to stop nurturing the guilt.
But how does a person actually begin to dig out of that trench? I mean, if you look at an entire house and see chaos, the visual data is so overwhelming that the brain simply shuts it down. You can't just tell someone to start loving themselves by cleaning.
No, you can't. And this is where the methodology becomes incredibly rigid and highly strategic. Before she prescribes a single physical cleaning task, before she even mentions a sponge or a broom, she lays down a strict philosophical foundation.
The ground rules.
Exactly. She knows the reader's operating system is corrupted, so she has to install a totally new set of rules to govern their behavior. She outlines the FlyLady's 11 commandments.
The 11 commandments of reclaiming control. And when you look closely at these rules, they actually fall into 3 distinct behavioral categories.
Let's break those down.
The first group is what we could call the rules of focus. These are entirely about managing attention span and preventing hyperfixation.
Which is crucial for this demographic.
Right. So Commandment 6 is don't try to do 2 projects at once, one job at a time. Commandment 4 is don't allow yourself to be sidetracked by the computer.
Very prescient rule.
Very. And then there's Commandment 7. Don't pull out more than you can put back in 1 hour.
We should definitely spend some time on Commandment 7 because it is arguably the most crucial psychological safeguard in the entire text.
Don't pull out more than you can put back in 1 hour.
Consider what she is doing there. She is actively anticipating and blocking the crash and burn motivation cycle that totally plagues disorganized perfectionists.
Oh, the manic Sunday cleaning spree. I think we've all experienced some version of this, right?
Absolutely.
You wake up, you feel a sudden burst of motivation, and you decide you are finally going to organize the disaster zone that is your bedroom closet.
You're going to fix your whole life in one day.
Exactly. So you take every single item of clothing, every shoe, every dusty box from the top shelf, and you just throw it all onto the bed. It takes 2 solid hours just to empty the space.
And then reality sets in.
Right. Then you look at this monumental mountain of stuff on your bed. The adrenaline wears off. You get completely overwhelmed by the micro decisions required for every single item. Do I keep this? Does it fit?
Decision fatigue is real.
It really is. You run out of energy, and eventually, because you literally need to sleep in that bed, you just sweep the entire mountain onto the floor.
And the room is now objectively worse than when you started.
So much worse.
The outcome of that manic spree is devastating for someone already struggling with self-worth. It reinforces their core negative belief, which is, I am incapable of fixing my life.
It's proof that they're a failure.
In their mind, yes. The author notes later in the text that, quote, our perfectionism is what got us in this situation. Perfectionism dictates that if you cannot organize the entire closet perfectly right now, you shouldn't do it at all.
Or it pushes you to do the mountain on the bed.
Exactly. It pushes you to bite off more than you can chew, resulting in the failure you just described. By setting a strict temporal boundary only, pull out what you can put back in 1 hour, she artificially limits the scope of the project.
So you can't fail.
She is engineering a situation where successful completion is virtually guaranteed. It is a brilliant mechanism designed not to organize clothes, but to build self-trust.
It prevents you from creating a mess you can't survive.
Yes.
And the rule about the computer, Commandment 4, is equally about focus. Don't allow yourself to be sidetracked by the computer. Remember, this text originated in an era before smartphones, when computers were massive desktops you had to actively sit down in front of.
Right, it was destination.
Yet she recognized even then that digital escapism is the primary enemy of dealing with physical reality. You sit down just to check one thing, and 2 hours totally vanish.
It is a profound observation regarding dopamine loops. Engaging with a screen provides instant, low-effort dopamine hits.
And cleaning doesn't.
Confronting a chaotic living room provides zero dopamine initially and requires immense effort. The brain will always choose the screen if given the option. By making it a commandment, she forces the reader to confront the friction of their physical space without that digital anesthetic.
That makes total sense. Okay, so that brings us to the second group of rules, the rules of maintenance.
The triage rules.
Right. Commandment 5 is pick up after yourself if you get it out, put it away when you finish. Commandment 3 requires you to do your morning routine every morning, do your before bed routine every night.
Establishing baselines.
And Commandment 1, which we will analyze in great depth shortly, is keep your sink clean and shiny.
If we return to your technical debt analogy, these maintenance rules ensure you aren't writing any new bad code while you try to fix the old broken code.
Stop the bleeding.
Exactly. They are triage protocols. They stop the active bleeding of the household environment.
You can't bail water out of a boat if there is still a massive hole in the bottom. These rules plug the hole. Then we get to the third group, the rules of self-care and joy.
Which are surprising to find in a cleaning manual.
Very. Commandment 8, do something for yourself every day, maybe every morning and night. Commandment 9, work as fast as you can to get a job done. This will give you more time to play later.
Time to play. I love that phrasing.
Commandment 11, don't forget to laugh every day. Pamper yourself. You deserve it. But it is Commandment 10 that feels slightly disconnected from the rest of me.
Let me guess. The smiling one.
Yes. Smile even when you don't feel like it. It is contagious. Make up your mind to be happy and you will be.
That's a tough one to swallow.
I look at Commandment 10 and my immediate reaction is just heavy skepticism. I mean, for someone who is deeply depressed by their living situation, someone experiencing the acute stress of hiding from the doorbell, just telling them to make up your mind to be happy feels hollow.
It feels dismissive.
It borders on toxic positivity. Does this fake it till you make it approach actually hold any water in behavioral psychology, or is it just a platitude?
Your skepticism is entirely warranted.
Yeah.
Taken in isolation, it sounds like a complete dismissal of genuine clinical depression. However, when situated within a broader behavioral framework, the mechanism she is attempting to leverage does have validity.
Really? How?
It aligns closely with the foundational principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Okay, break that down for me.
CBT posits a triangular relationship between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. They all constantly influence one another.
So if you are trapped in chaos, your thoughts are, I'm a failure, your feelings are shame and exhaustion, and your behavior is sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Precisely. And for someone in that state, trying to simply change their feelings is essentially impossible.
Right.
You cannot just will yourself to stop feeling ashamed.
Right.
And trying to change the thought patterns is incredibly difficult without professional guidance. The easiest point of intervention in that triangle is the behavior.
The physical action.
Yes. The physical act of smiling, even if entirely forced, has been shown in various studies to trigger neurological responses that can marginally reduce stress markers and improve mood. But more importantly for this system, forcing a smile breaks the physical posture of defeat.
It changes how you carry yourself.
Exactly. The author is asking the reader to physically embody the state they wish to achieve.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means these 11 commandments aren't just a chore chart on your fridge. They are cognitive behavioral guardrails.
Guardrails is the perfect word.
They are designed to protect you from your own worst habits, distraction, hyperfocus, perfectionism, and self-pity. They are rigid boundaries meant to keep your mind safe while you do the physical work.
But with the overarching philosophical rules established, the system finally demands action. Philosophy alone does not clear clutter.
No, it doesn't.
The reader has been prepped, and now the text prescribes the very first physical task.
And the assignment of this first physical task is where the genius of the system truly reveals itself, because it is entirely counterintuitive.
It makes no sense at first glance.
None at all. You are sitting in a house full of clutter. You have laundry touching the ceiling, dusty floors, a dining room table buried under months of mail.
Total chaos.
But the very first task she assigns ignores all of that massive looming work. It is laser-focused, incredibly specific, and seemingly insignificant to the overall state of the home. She calls it the first baby step.
The famous first baby step.
That step is shining the kitchen sink.
Shiny Sink 101.
Let's walk through the instructions she gives for this, because they are intense. This is not a suggestion to give the sink a quick wipe down with a soapy sponge.
Not even close.
She provides a militant 12-step process. Step 1, take all the dishes out of the sink. But the kicker here is her explicit instruction regarding those dishes. She says, do not wash them.
Which is wild.
Right. Do not complain that the sink is full of dirty dishes and nasty water. She writes, I am not telling you to wash the dishes. All I want is for you to set the dirty dishes on the counter.
Let us pause and analyze that single instruction because it is profound.
It goes against every instinct.
It does. The author forces the reader to aggressively detach the object from its traditional context. The sink, in this moment, is no longer a receptacle used for washing dishes. The sink is the project itself.
It's the goal.
Taking dirty dishes out of a sink and putting them onto a counter defies all normal domestic logic. It creates a secondary mess to serve a primary goal. It is an act of extreme prioritization.
It is almost rebellious, like I'm making a mess to clean a mess. Then we get to step 2. You run hot water to the rim, pour in a cup of household bleach, and let it sit for an hour.
Heavy duty.
Very. She specifies wearing gloves and warns not to get it on your clothes. Step 3, rinse well. Step 4, scrub with Comet, Ajax, or baking soda.
So we're bleaching and scrubbing.
And then step 5 is where it becomes almost surgical. She writes, take a sharp edge and clean around the rim of the sink just like you would clean dirt out from under your fingernails.
She is demanding an almost microscopic level of attention to this one specific area. She is shrinking the reader's entire world down to a 2-foot stainless steel basin.
Just tunnel vision on the sink. And it gets even more detailed. Step 6. Clean around the faucets with an old toothbrush or dental floss.
Dental floss.
Dental floss. Step 7. Get out your Windex and give it a good shine. And then, step 8 introduces something I found completely baffling on the first read.
The wax.
Yes. If you have a stainless steel sink and you still don't like how it looks after the Windex, she suggests putting a light coat of car wax on it. Or lemon oil. Or olive oil, just to make it physically shine.
We must examine the profound psychology at play here.
Because it sounds crazy.
It does. The author readily acknowledges that the reader is going to rebel against this. They will look at the crushing chaos in the rest of the house and think, why am I applying car wax to the kitchen sink when my children don't have clean underwear?
It feels like the wrong priority.
Exactly. But by demanding that the reader ignore the rest of the house and focus entirely on creating one pristine surface, she is engineering a guaranteed victory.
I see what you're saying. A guaranteed victory in a life that currently feels like a series of constant defeats.
Yes. She explicitly writes, I want you to have a sense of accomplishment. I just want to put a smile on your face. It is an engineered visual reward.
A physical manifestation of success.
By taking an hour to bleach, scrub, scrape with a sharp edge, floss, and wax the sink, she ensures that when the reader walks into the kitchen the next morning, amidst all the surrounding clutter and chaos, there is one gleaming beacon of order.
One perfect thing.
It is a literal reflection that proves to the reader that they are capable of creating cleanliness. They just proved it to themselves.
But there is a massive contradiction in the text here that we have to address.
Okay, what's that?
In step 8, right before she suggests using the car wax, she writes, just know in your heart that you have cleaned it very well and know it doesn't have to be perfect. Our perfectionism is what got us in this situation.
Ah, yes.
So she blames perfectionism for the chaos, but in the exact same breath, she is actively prescribing dental floss and car wax for a kitchen sink. How do we reconcile warning against perfectionism while demanding perfection?
It is a brilliant paradox, and it reveals her deep understanding of the audience. She is leveraging the reader's perfectionist tendencies, but severely restricting the arena.
Okay, explain that.
She knows these individuals likely have an all-or-nothing mindset. Their brain is telling them, if I can't clean the whole house perfectly, I won't clean anything.
Right.
By giving them permission to obsessively clean just the sink, to go all out with the toothbrush and the car wax, she safely satisfies that perfectionist itch. But because it is constrained to a tiny defined area, they can actually finish the job.
They get the hit without the craft.
Exactly. It prevents the exhaustion that usually follows perfectionism, replacing it with deep satisfaction.
That makes total sense. You get the neurochemical high of doing something perfectly without the devastating burnout of trying to do everything perfectly. Looking at it this way, it reminds me of the broken windows theory from criminology.
Explain how you see that connecting.
Well, the broken windows theory suggests that visible signs of disorder in an environment, like a broken window in a building, signal that no one cares.
Right, which encourages more crime.
Exactly. It encourages further crime and disorder in that area. It creates a downward spiral. But what the FlyLady is doing here is the broken windows theory in reverse.
A positive spiral.
Yes. By establishing one unbreachable zone of cleanliness, one perfectly intact window, it creates a psychological anchor of order.
An anchor that begins to exert influence over the surrounding area.
Exactly. Because once you have a sink that you have spent an hour bleaching and literally waxing, you are not going to carelessly throw a half-empty mug of coffee into it.
You ruin the wax job.
You would. You will rinse the mug and put it on the counter or in the dishwasher. The respect for that space radiates outward,
Right.
which leads directly to her maintenance instructions. Steps 9 through 12 are all about protecting this new shiny sanctuary.
Defending the sink.
Yes. She says every time you run water, you must dry the sink with a clean towel. She tells you to put a dishpan under the sink to hold future dirty dishes so they never touch your shiny sink.
Again, separating the function from the object.
And my absolute favorite part is step 12. Put a note in the sink. It will get their attention and remind them where to put the dishes. Be patient. They have never been taught either.
Step 12 is vital because she is recognizing that this new standard disrupts the entire ecosystem of the household.
The family's going to be confused.
Yes, the family is accustomed to the chaos as well. The shiny sink becomes the first boundary line drawn in the sand, establishing that the rules of the environment are changing. The note in the sink is a physical manifestation of a new boundary.
Okay, so the kitchen sink is now acting as this beacon of hope. The environmental anchor is set, but a shiny sink doesn't magically stop the resident from feeling exhausted or depressed.
No, it doesn't solve everything.
So how does she bridge the gap between fixing the house and fixing the person?
She pivots entirely. The first baby step addressed the physical environment. The next baby step turns inward, focusing entirely on the physical body of the resident.
The body itself.
And the instruction she gives here is just as surprising and arguably much more demanding than the sink protocol.
She prescribes a daily uniform.
The prescription of the daily uniform is where the concept of finally loving yourself moves from theory to physical practice.
The text tells you that the next vital step, non-negotiable, is getting fully dressed every single morning, and she makes it clear she does not mean throwing on a fresh pair of sweatpants.
No athleisure allowed.
You have to get dressed down to lace up shoes. She is militant about this detail. No slip-ons, no sandals, no bare feet. Lace-up shoes worn inside the house every single day.
To understand the reasoning behind this mandate, we have to look at the anecdote she provides about her time working for a direct sales cosmetics company.
Right. She mentions that years ago, this company had a strict rule for its sales force. Employees could not make a single morning phone call to a customer unless they were completely dressed, all the way down to their dress shoes.
Even though they were on the phone.
Exactly. This rule applied even though the customer was on the telephone and obviously could not see them. The rationale the company gave was, you act different when you have clothes and shoes on. You are more professional.
The underlying mechanism at play here is a phenomenon known in psychology as enclosed cognition.
Enclosed cognition. That's a great term.
It really is. It describes the systematic influence that clothes have on the wearer's psychological processes.
How does that work?
The classic study involves giving people a white coat. If you tell them it is a doctor's coat, they perform better on tasks requiring careful attention.
Oh, wow.
But if you tell them it is a painter's smock, they don't get that same boost in attention.
Same coat, different meaning.
Exactly. The physical experience of wearing the clothes, combined with their symbolic meaning, changes how the brain operates. When you put on athletic gear, your brain prepares for physical exertion. When you put on a tailored suit, you feel more authoritative. The FlyLady is brilliantly applying enclothed cognition to domestic management.
And she gives incredibly practical, grounded reasons for why it must be shoes, specifically. First, she says shoes tell your mind it's time to go to work.
The symbolic meaning.
Second, she points out that lace-up shoes are physically harder to kick off. She says instead of kicking your shoes off for a quick snooze on the couch, you actually have to go to a bit more trouble.
It's an engineered friction.
friction against the temptation of laziness. If you feel overwhelmed and want to collapse into bed, you have to sit down and untie your laces, which forces you to consciously decide to abandon your work.
It creates a forced moment of mindfulness. In the 10 or 15 seconds it takes to untie those laces, the executive function of the brain has a chance to catch up with the emotional impulse.
You have time to reconsider.
Right. The individual might realize, actually, I am not tired. I'm just anxious. I have enough energy to start a load of laundry.
She also lists some surprisingly practical benefits that show she really understands the reality of this lifestyle. She says wearing shoes fixes cracked and bleeding heels, a very specific physical relief for people constantly walking barefoot on hard floors.
It shows she knows her audience.
And crucially, she notes that shoes ensure you are ready for emergencies. She paints a vivid picture. You get a call from the school that your child is sick or a friend wants to grab a spontaneous lunch.
You don't have to panic.
Right. If you are already dressed down to your shoes, you are ready. You do not have to scramble. You don't feel a spike of panic. You don't feel embarrassed. You are prepared for the outside world to intrude on your sanctuary.
This connects directly to the demographic she specifically addresses in this section of the text, which is SAASMs, or stay-at-home moms.
Right.
She analyzes how this specific group often falls into the trap of not getting dressed because, as she writes, often they don't have to leave the house, only their children are going to see them.
Why bother, basically?
Yes. She recognizes how domestic labor is historically undervalued, leading the people performing it to undervalue themselves.
Her response to that mindset is fantastic. She challenges them directly, almost aggressively. She says, you have the most important job of all, raising productive adults. Now, Dublo, do you want your children to remember that mom didn't get dressed until it was time for dad to get home?
It's a tough question.
Or do you want your children to have to answer the door because you are still in your pajamas and bathrobe? It is a direct challenge to view their domestic role with the utmost professional dignity. She tells them, you would get off your franny and get dressed all the way to shoes because it is time to go to work.
She is demanding that they afford themselves the exact same respect they would grant to an external traditional workplace.
And it's not easy.
It's not. And this level of professionalization isn't just a morning routine. It requires evening preparation. The text mandates, picking out clothes the night before, checking the weather, checking the schedule, specifically to eliminate morning decision fatigue.
And there is a total, uncompromising ban on sweats and frumpy clothes for daily wear. But here is where the concept of enclothed cognition reaches its most fascinating depth, I think.
Oh, this part is great.
It is not just about looking presentable on the outside for the kids or the mail carrier. It is about the final touches of getting dressed to FYY. She mentions fixing your hair and face, moisturizing, putting on earrings, a string of pearls, your favorite perfume.
Going all out.
And then she brings up the concept of hidden confidence.
The intimates.
Yes, she talks about the psychological power of the underwear you choose to wear. She shares an anecdote about a member whose prim and proper Southern mother would not leave the house without wearing her red lace panties.
I love that story.
And then she talks about Cindy, the organization's web editor. Cindy is an engineer, and the text says that underneath her steel-toed boots, jeans, sweatshirt, hard hat, and jumpsuit, she wears a lace teddy.
The juxtaposition of a hard hat and a lace teddy is a stunning metaphor for the entire FlyLady system and its approach to domestic labor.
How so? Break that down for me.
Well, it speaks directly to the dual nature of the work she is asking the reader to do. On the outside, you are doing hard, often unglamorous, physically demanding labor.
Right, you're plunging toilets.
You are scrubbing sinks with bleach. You are managing chaotic schedules. You are wearing the metaphorical steel-toed boots of domestic duty. But underneath all of that, close to the skin where no one else can see, there is a layer of pure self-care and self-respect that is entirely private.
It's just for you.
It is a secret fortress of self-worth. The lace teddy does not help Cindy engineer websites better, and nice underwear doesn't help a mother clean a kitchen faster, but it fundamentally changes the posture of the person doing the work.
It changes how they feel about themselves doing the work.
It reinforces the core philosophy, finally loving yourself. The physical environment is secondary to the self-respect of the resident.
It is an incredibly intimate form of coaching. I mean, she isn't just telling you how to organize a closet. She's telling you to make sure you are wearing your favorite perfume while you do it.
She wants you to feel human.
She is insisting that you do not lose your identity to the chore. And the impact of this approach is undeniable when you read the testimonials she includes at the end of the text. The cognitive shift these women describe goes far beyond just having a cleaner house.
The testimonials provide the empirical evidence for the enclosed cognition and behavioral interventions we've been discussing.
Let's look at a few of them. There is a letter from Glenny's in Alaska. She admits she thought wearing shoes inside was a hokey thing to do.
Which is fair.
But when she actually tried it, she wrote, "The effect was immediate. I feel taller, so therefore less dumpy and therefore more capable." She explicitly says the shoes act like tying a string around a finger, a physical reminder to do something.
Notice the specific progression of the adjectives Glenny's uses there. Taller, less dumpy, more capable.
It's a chain reaction.
It is. The physical sensation of the shoe, the firmness of the sole, and the tightness of the laces alters her perception of her own physical stature, which immediately translates into a perception of increased psychological competence.
And then there is Kiplin from Oklahoma, who decided to take a day off from wearing her shoes and realized how much her feet and legs ached without that physical support.
The practical benefit.
She says she found her shoes under the desk and her feet were literally crying out for them. But the one that really captures the essence of the entire system is from Pamela from New Jersey. She wrote, "Who knew that a pair of Keds, some lipstick, and a shiny sink could have such an impact on my soul?"
An impact on my soul. That phrase is the thesis of the source material fully realized.
It really sums it up.
A shiny sink and lace-up shoes are mundane, inanimate physical objects. But when they are applied systematically to a person suffering from the emotional paralysis and deep shame of chaos, they act as mechanical levers to lift the human spirit out of depression.
It creates a continuous self-sustaining feedback loop. You wake up and the first thing you see is the shiny sink you prepared the night before. That visual proof of your own competence makes you smile.
The engineered reward.
Because you smiled and felt a brief moment of success, you have just enough energy to put on your lace-up shoes and your nice clothes. Because you are dressed and your shoes are tied, you do not go back to sleep on the couch.
The friction works.
Instead, you pick up a bit of the clutter. Because you picked up the clutter, your environment incrementally improves, which makes you respect yourself a little more. The engine of home management is finally running, fueled by self-worth rather than shame.
To synthesize this entire document, the FlyLady method is fundamentally a psychological rescue mission that has been cleverly disguised as a housekeeping manual.
A rescue mission.
It operates on the core recognition that physical chaos in a home is the symptom, not the disease. The disease is emotional paralysis, crippling guilt, and a total collapse of self-esteem.
The technical debt.
Exactly. By breaking massive, seemingly impossible tasks into tiny, strictly perfectible moments, which she terms baby steps, and by enforcing daily acts of physical self-care and professional dignity, the system circumvents the overwhelming dread.
It bypasses the fear.
It bypasses the corrupted executive function and tricks the brain into feeling capable again through action.
It entirely shifts the goalposts of domestic life. The goal is no longer to have a clean house.
No, that's a trap.
Having a clean house as a primary goal is what led to the perfectionism and the burnout in the first place. The new goal is simply to finally love yourself. The clean house is no longer the objective. It is just the natural, inevitable byproduct of a person who has decided they are finally worth the effort of putting on shoes and flossing their sink.
Which leaves us with a profound shift in how we might view our own environments and our relationship to them.
Absolutely. And for you listening right now, I want to challenge you to think about this framework in the context of your own daily life. Even if your house is not in total chaos, even if you are just dealing with standard low-level procrastination or a lack of motivation, what is your version of the shiny sink?
Everyone has one.
What is your equivalent of the lace-up shoes? What is that one small, highly specific physical anchor that you can control entirely that tells your brain, I am capable today?
Something small.
Maybe it is the act of making your bed the exact second your feet touch the floor. Maybe it is clearing your computer desktop of all files at the end of the workday so you open to a blank, calm screen tomorrow morning. What is the physical trigger that gives you an immediate, undeniable sense of victory?
This text raises a final, lingering question, one that flips our standard understanding of human behavior and environment completely on its head.
Okay, what is it?
We generally operate under the assumption that our environment dictates our self-worth. We believe that if we live in a mess, the mess makes us feel bad. But based on the behavioral mechanisms we have explored today, what if it is the other way around?
Oh, wow.
What if the mess around you is not actually a problem to be solved, but simply a mirror reflecting how you currently value your own time and comfort.
If the environment is just a mirror of your self-worth, then attacking the mess with a garbage bag and a burst of anxious adrenaline is only addressing the symptom.
It's treating the mirror, not the person.
It is destined to fail. If you change the way you treat yourself first, if you put on the shoes, if you wear the perfume, if you shine the sink purely to give your future self a gift, does the chaos simply begin to dissolve on its own?
It dissolves because you are no longer the type of person who requires an environment of chaos to match your internal state.
When we started this deep dive, we talked about that terrifying, visceral moment of hiding in the dark on your own front porch, holding your breath, paralyzed by the fear of someone seeing your mess.
The ultimate low point.
But if you follow the logic of this behavioral intervention, if you take those tiny, counterintuitive, sometimes ridiculous-sounding steps, the car wax, the dental floss, the lace-up shoes, you start to rewrite your own code. You pay down the emotional technical debt,
You build a new foundation.
and maybe, just maybe, the next time that doorbell rings unexpectedly, you aren't the person hiding in the dark anymore. You are the person who stands up, fully dressed, grounded in your lace-up shoes, ready for whatever is outside, and you simply open the door.